Kirsten Haas, Director of Membership here at the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, and I'm joined today by one of our members, Marshall Pickard of Marshall Pickard Graphic Designs. So welcome, Marshall.
Thank you.
For our viewing audience, why don't you tell us a little bit about Marshall Pickard Graphic Design, maybe how you got started and how long you've been in business?
Sure. I started in this business about 25 years ago. I've done freelance work for over 20 years. I did it under the name Pickard Advertising and Design at first when I was in the Washington, D.C. area when we first moved back to this area. I spent the last few years raising my daughters and doing minimal freelance work, so this has kind of been a relaunch for me this past fall. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm relaunching my business. I work with area nonprofits, small business to mid-sized business, working on their graphic design, marketing, and advertising needs.
Okay. So what exactly is graphic design? If you can, it's not just like drawing pictures and making logos, is it?
No, that's part of it. We do draw, we do make logos, but it's anything to deal with visual design and marketing. So you're talking anything from your website design to your logo design and your brand identity, which even that in itself is two different things. Some people come in and say, I just want a logo, and not even thinking about their business as a brand. So that's also a part of it that I develop for them. It also deals with social media promotion, anything you need printed, from brochures to placards to signage. It encompasses a lot, and being on my own and pretty much a one-person design firm, I take on many hats. I'm your copywriter, I'm your proofreader, I'm your art director, which is one of the areas I got my start in, working for Lennox China and Collectibles. So I bring that in, unless if it's a big job, I hire other freelancers that help me out on it.
Okay. So as a solopreneur, really, what is, in your time so far with the GRCA, what's one resource or program that you have found especially helpful in growing your business, particularly since you're in a relaunch mode?
I would say the power networking lunches have been really helpful. They're very nice because you get to sit down with members for more than 30 seconds per se, or you're not just in a room with a bunch of people where some people know each other, some people don't, and you're just kind of mingling. People really take the time to let you know what their business is, what they're looking for, what they need, and it's making connections. And those connections aren't necessarily always for business, but they might be connections that lead to something in the future. We were talking a little bit earlier, I had somebody from Gowan Insurance calling me, asking me if I did podcasts. That is not something I did. Now I'm sitting here doing a podcast and a video, and I'm emailing her today, say, by the way, this is what I'm doing. I now have a company for you that can help their clients. So, you know, hopefully maybe that connection grows at some time, maybe it doesn't, but it's a lead in a positive way for me as a business person and for them.
Right, and that's a great point that GRC membership helps with is it may not be a particular event or program, but just making that member-to-member connection that then can lead to other connections. That's really great. So in your relaunch, what is your ultimate goal for growth? Or do you have, I mean, are you just kind of at this point, whatever it is, or do you have a specific growth goal in mind?
My growth goal is to grow the business to a point where I am sustaining my business. I am comfortable with the amount of work I have, but not overloaded. I've always enjoyed working with nonprofits. I like giving back to the community. Nonprofits don't always have the resources to hire a larger firm or get more expensive items done. I'm very good at meeting budgets and also coming up with ideas and solutions that they may not have thought of before, or if they tried them in-house because they do not have the visual design background that I had, it didn't go as well as they appreciated. So they're very nice clients to work with, and well as small business owners that are starting up. Having worked for myself, I understand you are on a restricted budget. I understand that, okay, yes, you may not be able to get the entire business identity, postcards, mailers at this time, but we can plan for that down the road and budget for it, which I'm very good at helping people at. It's because I know the cost. I know the cost of starting up, and I know some of the tricks to work around things to get your name out there on a tighter budget, which anybody owns their own business. It's hard.
Okay. So given that you do like to work with nonprofits because you like giving back to the community, but you also like helping small businesses who are starting out, what is your, when you get a new client like that, what in your mind is your most important piece of advice to them? What's kind of the first, say, 3 steps that you tell them they should take before they venture off?
Well, for any project, they should have a budget. You need to have a budget, and if you don't know your budget, you need to come up with one, even if it's brainstorming with me how much it's going to cost. Because if you don't have a budget, you're not sure of how much can you do. You're not even sure if you're getting a brochure printed, how much does it cost to get it printed? How much does it cost to get it done in 4-color versus 2-color? You know, things like that. They may not know that information, but they need to have a general idea of a budget. Then you have to have an objective. What is your goal of this campaign, this ad, whatever it is you're doing? Too often, they'll have 3 to 4 goals, and they don't even mesh with one another. So if you're all over the place and you don't have the idea narrowed down to that one specific thing you want to accomplish, then it's very difficult to say, okay, how are we going to achieve your goals? And the other thing is being open to feedback. And a lot of times, I will, when clients come to me, I am able to say, and I just recently had this happen with a coalition of colleges that are starting studypa.gov, which is to bring in students from foreign countries. They said, I just need a logo. And I said, are you sure about that? And I educated them on what it means to have a brand. They came back to me and said, you know, this is great. We're not there yet, but we will keep this in mind as going forward. And it wasn't me trying to sell them a bunch of different services either. It was me trying to educate them and say, you need to think about this as you develop your logo. It's not a one and done thing. And that's sometimes a lot of it is I'm educating them and letting them know how to think about their advertising and marketing more than what they go in with the preconceived notion.
That's a great point. And that's another way businesses can learn from each other is what they don't know, what they need to consider. So as someone who's been in the graphic design business for a long time, maybe a final question is, how has the evolution of social media impacted what you do?
Social media has actually had a great impact on what we do. It's another channel of communication that you can reach a target audience. For example, with Facebook, you can create ads specifically to a certain age group, to a certain sex, to a certain interest, and then you get measurable outcomes from them. So really, they've set up a nice thing. The other thing that you saw when we had the economic downturn, a lot of companies stopped testing their advertising. Now, with Facebook, as just one example, you can do A/B testing of 2 ads to see which works better, and it can give you some very interesting feedback that you weren't aware of.
Excellent. Well, that's a good thing to know. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank you for coming out today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great to learn about Marshall Pickard Graphic Design. And I'm glad to hear that in the short time you've been a member, because you're one of our newer members, that you've already made some great contacts.
Yes, it's been very beneficial. It's a great group.
Excellent. We're glad to have you on board.
Thank you
very much.